Hi guys, it's me, HD, and welcome to tonight's race review for yesterday's 2021 Monaco Grand Prix. Hopefully you guys are doing well on what is a nice weather-wise Monday evening for me in my part of the UK. And yeah, hopefully you guys are doing well no matter what time or part of the world you are in currently. And hopefully tonight with me, and if you're watching this after the stream is finished, hopefully with me review the events of the Monaco Grand Prix and give your thoughts as to what happened, who performed well, who didn't, and just how things came about. Now, if you don't know the final race results of yesterday's Monaco Grand Prix, you can see them on the left-hand side of the screen, but if you want to see the timings as well, then here you go. Max Verstappen, of course, in P1, winning the Grand Prix, his first Monaco Grand Prix win. Carlos Sainz finishing second, 9 seconds behind, and Lando Norris in third. Again, Sainz and Norris's first podium in Monte Carlo. And then Sergio Perez fourth, Sebastian Vettel fifth, Aston Martin's best result of the season so far. Gasly sixth, I think that's Alfa Tauri's best result of the season so far as well. Lewis Hamilton seventh, Lance Stroll eighth, Esteban Ocon ninth, and finally, Alfa Romeo have scored points this time with Antonio Giovinazzi in P10. Then just after that is Kimi Räikkönen and the rest of the order. Out of the drivers who finished the race but not inside the points are Ricciardo 12th, and then Alonso, Russell, Latifi, Tsunoda, Mazepin and Schumacher. And your two retirements, Valtteri Bottas and Charles Leclerc. But we'll first get into the top team of Formula One. Most of the time, Mercedes. They definitely were not the top team in Monaco. Didn't quite have the speed, of course, in qualifying. Their race pace in clean air wasn't actually that bad. It wasn't, I think, as good as, say, Verstappen's pace, and wasn't probably good enough to win the race, but it wasn't bad. You know, let's say with Valtteri Bottas, it wasn't anything, say, as horrific as what Lewis Hamilton's pace was in qualifying. It was definitely still pretty good. But ultimately, because of qualifying, where they didn't get ahead of Verstappen on the grid and, of course, get pole position, with Charles Leclerc not taking part in the race, it was always going to be very difficult for Mercedes to win the Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton, we'll get into in a moment. We'll start with Valtteri Bottas. And yeah, Bottas's speed, I mean, it did fall off a bit, especially once the tyres started to go away. His rear tyres especially were going away quite quickly, Valtteri Bottas. And also traffic played a part in him losing a bit of time to Max Verstappen. And we know that Valtteri Bottas is not that good at lapping cars. So compared to Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. But he was still second. He was still 3 or 4 seconds away from the leader. So he wasn't totally out of it. And when he came into the pit stop, of course, disaster struck, where his right front tyre simply would not come off the car. And he ended up in the pits for an eternity. So long, in fact, of course, he retired from the Grand Prix. And in fact, Nib actually sent me this earlier. That tyre is still stuck on the car. They've actually had to take it back to the factory to get it removed from the car. That's how, I guess you could say, how stuck it is on the car. It's absolutely incredible. I've never seen anything like that before, where the tyre literally refused to come off. And I think what happened was, as the mechanic went, with the wheel gun to get the tyre off, I think the part of the gun that's supposed to take the nut out, I'm probably getting this horribly wrong, but I think he got stuck in the tyre, and that's why he couldn't then get the tyre off. I think that's why it is. If I am wrong, then make sure to correct me. I'm not very intelligent when it comes to the tech they use for getting the tyres off in pit stops, so I am probably very wrong with that. But yeah, Valtteri Bottas, of course, then was out of the race. A shame for him, because he was on for a podium, and that would have been a good result for Valtteri going into Baku, of course, where Valtteri historically has been pretty quick and pretty successful. So a shame for Valtteri Bottas, but the story of his career at Mercedes where when he will out-qualify and do better, say, than Lewis Hamilton and look quite strong, most of the time he ends up just getting hit with bad luck and not getting, say, the result he should get. Talking of Baku, 2018, could have won the Grand Prix there, but, had a tyre failure. There's been plenty of other times, I think, of course, the Russian Grand Prix in 2018, when he was ordered to move over for Lewis Hamilton at that Grand Prix, where again he was, clearly better than Hamilton pace-wise those weekends. It's such a shame for Valtteri Bottas, because again, even though Lewis Hamilton is clearly better than him, when Valtteri does have these weekends where he is ahead, it's always been very important for Valtteri, if he's ever going to compete for the championship, to capitalise, and he just doesn't capitalise enough. And I think, honestly, half of the time it's himself just not being good enough, but the other half is Valtteri Bottas suffering bad luck, which he did in the Monaco Grand Prix. For Lewis Hamilton, though, the reason he finished down in P7 was because of qualifying, having the wrong setup on his car, which led to him qualifying down in P7. I'll be honest, with Mercedes, I think strategically, though, even though their pace was not great with Lewis Hamilton, I do think strategically they got it wrong yesterday, because it was clear to see that the overcut, so going further than your rivals into the Grand Prix, was the right thing to do. Yet, if you look at Mercedes in the Grand Prix yesterday, they were out of the top 10. They were the first to pit, with Hamilton and then Bottas. And of course, Bottas then had his issue. Very surprised by that. Very surprised by that. I thought Hamilton would at least be going, 3 or 4 laps longer than, say, Gasly and Norris and, drivers like that. But to see Hamilton pitting before was a big surprise to me, because I was always expecting Lewis Hamilton to go longer. And him pitting before Gasly and Vettel, who of course did a brilliant overcut and jumped Gasly and Hamilton in the pit stop phase, Hamilton ended up actually losing out through that strategy. So again, I was very surprised Mercedes did that, and I think that was the wrong call, because clearly in the Grand Prix yesterday, going longer than your rivals was the thing to do. I mean, we saw Lance Stroll, who was on 50, 55 lap old hard compound tyres going into the Grand Prix, was quicker than Ocon, and Ocon was on a softer and fresher compound. So again, going longer into the Grand Prix was really the way to go, and Mercedes went the other way. So I think they didn't give themselves the best chance of a properly good finish with Lewis Hamilton, I do have to say. What they should have done, and what I was expecting them to do, is once Gasly and Norris pitted, for Hamilton then to be given clean air to drive into, and then set some lap times that would get him ahead of those drivers. But he wasn't given that chance. They were kind of just desperate to get ahead, because I think they probably saw the gap between them and Verstappen and got a bit desperate and thought, we need to do something, and then ended up worse off. So, shame for Hamilton that Mercedes got it wrong there, but his qualifying, of course, did not help, and he was never going to finish on the podium after his qualifying performance. And yeah, a very poor weekend for Mercedes. Only 6 points, I think. No, actually 7 points, because Lewis Hamilton did get the fastest lap point. 7 points from this Grand Prix. That is quite poor. And with Red Bull scoring 38 points, I believe, Mercedes have got to respond very, very soon. I think Baku, it'll be tough for Mercedes to beat Red Bull in Baku, to be honest. I think the French Grand Prix at Paul Ricard, I think that's a big chance for them to bounce back. But they've got to bounce back soon, because I think Red Bull, like me and Nib were saying yesterday, I think Red Bull, with the result they got yesterday and the performance they put in, I think you'd have to say, unless something drastic happens to Verstappen in a bad way, this is a championship turning point, without doubt. It really is. And talking of Red Bull, let's go on to them. Now, Max Verstappen did absolutely everything he had to do. Had easily the pace to win the Grand Prix. Of course, Charles Leclerc not starting the Grand Prix did help a lot, but Verstappen aced everything. His pace was very good, managed the Grand Prix up front, looked after his tyres well enough, so then when the pit stop phase came around, he wasn't out of tyres, out of grip, let's say. Verstappen was not perfect, because, well, perfect on this planet doesn't exist, but as close to perfect as he could be. He just did everything right, and a great result for Max Verstappen. Like I said, coming into the weekend, this is the result he needed, and with Hamilton finishing so low down, again, I do think this is a turning point in the championship battle, as Max Verstappen is now in the lead of the Drivers' Championship by 4 points, and Red Bull now lead the Constructors' Championship by, I think, just a single point over Mercedes. So, advantage Red Bull and Verstappen, and with the tracks coming up, like I said yesterday, with the circuits we've got coming up in the next month and a half, Max is definitely, I'd say, the favourite to win the majority of races between now and the summer break, without doubt. Be interesting to see what Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes can do to respond, because if they want to win another championship, they're going to have to respond pretty big time very soon, because this man in this car at the minute is driving at a very, very high level. And I will say, for Sergio Perez, I thought he put in a very good drive yesterday, because, I mean, qualifying was poor. Qualifying in, ninth place, of course, started the Grand Prix in P8. But his speed, after, Vettel and Hamilton and Gasly had pitted, to perform the overcut on those cars and drivers, what an effort from Sergio Perez. Absolutely brilliant. Did exactly what he needed to do. Considering how strong he was with the overcut, he probably, Red Bull might have thought, in hindsight, they probably could have gone even longer to maybe get him, maybe not ahead of Norris, but closer to Norris, for maybe, later in the Grand Prix, so Perez could be closer to Norris for a longer batch of time to put the pressure really on for that podium. Even though it was going to be basically impossible for Perez to pass. But yeah, great drive by Sergio Perez. Red Bull impressed me a lot, honestly, in the Grand Prix yesterday. And like I said, advantage Red Bull and Max Verstappen. I'd be very surprised if they didn't build on this in Baku. And I'd have to say, Max Verstappen and Red Bull are the favourites for victory in Baku. And I think they will have the best car and the car to beat. So, going to be interesting to see what Mercedes can respond with, because in Monaco they were definitely quite a bit slower than I thought they would be. So, it'll be interesting to see how they respond. But definitely, like I said, Verstappen and Red Bull, the team to beat at the moment. Next up, Ferrari. Carlos Sainz finishing in second place. His pace in the Grand Prix, I have to say, was very good, because until probably the last few laps or so, Sainz was not even that far behind Max Verstappen. I'm actually currently watching a race replay on Sky Sports F1 of the Grand Prix. And they're just on, lap 57, and Sainz was only 3 seconds off, between the pit stop and about lap 55 to 60. So Carlos Sainz's pace was very, very good at the Grand Prix. And he was actually quite close to Valtteri Bottas before Bottas came into the pit. So Sainz was looking very strong. And I think the only thing maybe Carlos Sainz will regret is qualifying and not putting in a stronger first lap before, of course, his teammate put it in the wall and prevented anyone else from going any quicker. That's the only thing I think Carlos Sainz will regret from the weekend, because, to be honest, if he did get pole position, Carlos Sainz, I think Carlos probably would have won the Grand Prix quite easily, because, like I said, Carlos's pace was very good, and the Ferrari pace was very good. Ferrari were definitely right up there as, say, a top team this weekend. First time since the end of 2019 they've been in that position, so great to see. And great to see Carlos Sainz getting his first podium in Monaco and his first podium for Ferrari, and now is only, I think, 2 points behind Charles Leclerc in the Drivers' Championship. And talking of Charles Leclerc, like I said yesterday, I feel sorry for his fans. I feel sorry for the Ferrari fans. I feel sorry for the team. But, because of what happened in qualifying, which I think did cause the issue that came up before the Grand Prix. I can't feel massively sorry for Charles Leclerc because I do think he brought it a bit on himself with that accident. But his pace was great. If he did start the race from pole position and did not have that crash in qualifying, I think Charles Leclerc definitely would have won the Monaco Grand Prix. But he didn't because of what happened, and he has to wait. He still has to wait for even a points finish at the Monaco Grand Prix. But I will say for Ferrari, it is very good to see them back up there. Very good to see them back up there. I don't think in Baku, Ferrari are going to be, same up there with Red Bull and Mercedes because, like I said, when it comes to power and the high-speed sections of, say, certain circuits, Ferrari is still not there yet. Their car is a lot stronger on twisty circuits and, say, circuits with medium to slow-speed corners. And Baku, the middle sector does have quite a few slow-speed corners. So I don't think Ferrari are going to be poor in Baku. I still think they'll probably get both cars in the top 7 on the grid. But they're not going to be up there with Red Bull Mercedes because in the first and third sector, they're going to be losing a lot of time to those two teams. So, yeah, I'd say in Baku, they're probably going to be neck and neck with, say, Gasly and the Alfa Tauri and the two McLarens. That's going to be their fight in Baku. Of course, if they could get up there in Baku again with the front two teams, and McLaren could as well, then that would be really great. But realistically, I just don't think Ferrari will have the speed, and I don't think probably until, maybe you could argue Paul Ricard, Ferrari there could be quite strong, but to be right up there again with the top two teams, I'd say at least the Hungarian Grand Prix is when you'd have to wait for Ferrari to be back up there. But we'll see what they do in Baku and whether they can be putting in a strong performance again, which they have been for the last couple Grand Prix. Before I come to you guys in the chat, just going to review McLaren. Lando Norris capitalising on his great qualifying. Of course, qualified in 5th, started the race from P4 and finished in 3rd because of Valtteri Bottas' problem. Yeah, great driving, great result. I don't think Lando really in the race did anything especially great or good. He just, again, solidified what he did in qualifying. Qualifying is where he did the work. With a phenomenal lap, I have to say. That was probably one of the best, if not his best lap in Formula 1 so far. That P5 in Monaco to out-qualify a Mercedes, a Red Bull, and his teammate Daniel Ricciardo by so much lap time. So Lando had a great weekend, and of course, first podium in Monaco. And he is now 3rd again in the Drivers' Championship. Of course, he's not going to be competing for the championship because McLaren is simply not quick enough. But Lando, I'd say definitely right now is on for a top 5 finish in the Drivers' World Championship as long as he keeps up this consistency and just amazingness, I guess you could say, that he is, been showing for the last 5 races of this season and has obviously showed quite a bit in 2020. But for Daniel Ricciardo, it was a very poor Grand Prix. He was, by the looks of it, because of the lack of speed that the cars ahead of him that he was being held up by had compared to the people in the points, Daniel Ricciardo was never going to get anywhere near finishing in a points-paying position, especially after the poor start he had, losing, I think, a couple positions on the first lap. So, yeah, Daniel Ricciardo, very poor Grand Prix, wasn't helped again by his qualifying. I think in Baku, his aim has got to be, say, 8th or 9th, say, in the Grand Prix, at least in Baku, for McLaren to be happy with his performance. Clearly is not as good right now as Lando Norris, who is definitely quite a bit better right now. But, yeah, I think McLaren as a team, I think Baku, they're going to be very strong. They're going to be very strong in Baku. Wouldn't be surprised if Norris could get a 4th or a 5th place finish in Baku. Like I said, Ricciardo really does, because of how strong I think the McLaren car will be in Baku, I do think he needs to be at least in the top 9 of the finishing order, because if he was to get a pointless finish again, that would be pretty poor, I think, for him and McLaren. But yeah, I think McLaren, really, their fight again is going to be with the two Ferraris, Pierre Gasly and the Alpha Tauri, and maybe the other Alpha Tauri of Yuki Tsunoda as well. I do expect Alpha Tauri to be pretty quick in Baku, so watch out for that battle of Alpha Tauri, Ferrari and McLaren. And McLaren looking still great, third in the constructors still, only 2 points ahead of Ferrari. And like I said, still looking great and doing pretty well, I have to say, to hang on ahead of Ferrari, because, I mean, Ferrari for the last 3 races have had a better car than McLaren, and McLaren have come away with quite a lot of points despite that. So McLaren still performing at a very high level. But before I go into the rest of the teams, guys, and review how they do, or how they did, sorry, let me know in the live chat and the comment section down below if you're watching this after the stream is finished. Let me know what did you think of the Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, and McLaren teams' races and how their drivers did. Let me know again in the live chat. Right now, just want to say, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this if you are new, because we will be doing a qualifying and race watch along for every remaining, if I can speak English, remaining Grand Prix in 2021. We will be doing a qualifying and race watch along, for example, in Baku in a fortnight for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or go to my homepage and hit the notifications button. Also, don't forget to smash the like button and share this stream everywhere you can. But let me just read out some comments quickly before I go into the rest of the teams. I'm going to be honest. The race yesterday was pretty poor in terms of entertainment, so this isn't going to be a very long stream, I'm going to be honest. Again, because there's not that much to talk about from the Grand Prix on Sunday. By the way, that's the one thing I forgot to mention is, of course, Max Mosley sadly today passed away. So rest in peace to him. 81 years old, I believe. He made it to, so yeah, just letting you guys know that. Let's find some other comments here quick. Lewis had the same tyre issues Bottas had last race. Simon Troop says Hamilton should have stayed out longer. Let me find some other comments here. Simon Cragland says Norris is amazing. He's been amazing this season. You absolutely have to say that. Even if you're not a massive fan of Lando Norris, you've got to say how he's done this season. It's been quite incredible. Simon Troop asks, do you think Ferrari have a chance of winning at the Red Bull Ring? No, because that circuit just doesn't suit their car. It's a power track, isn't it? So, yeah, Ferrari are not going to be really that competitive, especially in the race, because if anyone gets within a second of them, they're going to be pretty slow in a straight line, because they are still lacking. From what I last saw at the last power track we were at, which was Bahrain, the first race of the season, they were lacking about 5 kilometers an hour compared to the Honda-powered and Mercedes-powered teams. And even if you look at the first sector times and say the highest speed sector at each of the races so far, Ferrari are always pretty... well, actually, not pretty slow, but they're quite a bit slower in the more higher speed sectors compared to the slower speed sectors, if you know what I mean. And again, because the Red Bull Ring, the first 3 quarters of it is, well, the whole track really is just very fast. So yeah, I don't see Ferrari being anywhere near winning the Grand Prix there. They'll do pretty well to finish on the top 6, to be honest, in Austria. Let me find some other comments here. Carlos is what Tonka was saying in the chat, was the unsung hero. Hats off to him. Simon Cragland says Alpine might be fighting with team as well. McLaren, I think, will be 3rd best in Baku. Yeah, I think McLaren, AlphaTauri, Ferrari definitely are going to be competing strongly, I think, for those three, not three positions, you know what I mean, to be third best team in Baku. I don't know for sure who it's going to be. I'm kind of leaning towards AlphaTauri and Ferrari at the moment. We'll see, though. We'll see in Baku. Can't wait, honestly, for the Baku Grand Prix. Tonka asks, where's JB been lately? Of course, if you don't know, JB used to be and I do use the word used to be, a regular on the channel in terms of commenting and support and all of that. The reason, I might as well comment on it now because he's probably not watching the stream. I don't think he's watched any of my videos for quite a few months as JB. The reason he's gone is because he got into an argument on Discord, in my Discord server, with someone who can be very, if you are debating this certain person, he can be annoying to debate, but still, he's not doing anything wrong. He's not, saying that you should be whatever, so, suffer some kind of punishment for having an opinion or calling people names or anything like that. Yeah, he can be a bit annoying, but that's, not against the rules, obviously. I don't really debate anyone in the Discord anymore. My days of debating in text form, in comment sections, is well and truly over, I have to say, from a couple of years ago when I used to answer basically every comment on my videos. But yeah, basically JB got into an argument with a guy, and then got disappointed that I wouldn't do anything about it, when there was nothing I could do about it because he didn't break any of the rules, and JB, I think, broke a couple of the rules. I think he insulted him maybe once, maybe twice at most, but yeah, that's the reason he's not around anymore, because I think he's angry with me because I didn't punish the other guy when I couldn't punish the other guy because he didn't break the rules. Yeah. It's a shame. I mean, I still like the guy. I've not, he's not done anything to me for me to dislike him or anything, but that's just the way it is. That's what he's done. Hopefully he'll be back sometime in the future. I doubt it. I don't think he'll ever be back. But it's a shame, but there's nothing to do. I will say I'm really thankful for him because he gave me a lot of support when I was really down and depressed this time last year. One of the few people that kept me going, to be honest. So if he is listening, please do come back. We all want you to come back, but yeah, not heard anything from him since February, I think, or maybe the middle of March at the latest. That was the last time I heard anything from him. So yeah, shame, real shame, but we'll see what the future holds for any contact. Anyway, let's get on to the rest of the teams. Aston Martin, what a day for them that they had yesterday. Jumped up from 7th in the Constructors up to 5th now, which, to be honest, considering how great McLaren and Ferrari are compared to the rest of the midfield in terms of their pace and scoring points, that's going to have to be 5th in the Constructors. Aston Martin's aim now for 2021. And currently, of course, like I said, sitting in 5th place, Sebastian Vettel. What a drive, of course, got promoted up to 7th because of Leclerc's issue. Leclerc's drive shaft issue. And then his pace, I got to say, was very strong. Held off Perez nicely, who was definitely quicker in the Grand Prix, as we saw later on when Perez actually got ahead. Perez ended up finishing, I think, half a minute ahead of Vettel in the end, especially when Vettel's tyres were starting to go away. But, Vettel's pace compared to Gasly and Hamilton, if you look at that first stint before he came in for a pit stop, pretty good. He was lapping about the same speed as Lewis Hamilton, really, for the entire first stint, again, until the pit stops came. Then, of course, Gasly and Hamilton pitted. I think the reason, by the way, the overcut was so powerful yesterday is because, as we saw in qualifying, tyre warm-up has been an issue this weekend, and I think it was just taking quite a lot of time, especially with the heavier fuel on board, for the cars who had pitted to get their tyres fired up compared to the cars that went longer, and of course, very warm tyres at that point had probably looked after them very nicely. So I think that's what helped Sebastian Vettel perform a great overcut and then really made a great move stick up the hill into Casino Square. Still got to say, though, the TV directing was utter shit at that point. I know it wasn't FOM, as it was revealed later. It's actually Monaco who do the TV directing. But yeah, absolutely shocking TV directing there. Whoever made that decision to cut away needs to be fired. He needs to be fired, because that is incompetence of the highest level. Really, really poor. But yeah, great result for Sebastian Vettel. I'm so happy for the guy. I think I said, even a few weeks ago, and even coming into the Grand Prix, that I thought Vettel was definitely going to finish in the points here, because he's had enough races in the car. He's getting more used to it, more experience, more comfortable. And Monaco is a track where, you know, the drivers make more of a difference than the car normally here in Monaco. And we've seen that in this last Grand Prix weekend with him finishing up in 5th place. And I think, honestly, going into Baku, I think Sebastian Vettel is in for another strong weekend. I would be very surprised if Sebastian Vettel does not finish in the points in Baku. I think 8th or 9th is probably where he's likely to finish. But I think, again, it would be quite a shock if he was not in the points. And got to say, Aston Martin, considering their aerodynamic struggles in the first races this season, the first 5 races, in the last couple tracks where grip is very important, they've been pretty good. So, going now to a track in Baku where I'd say power is definitely the most important thing, and they do have with the Mercedes power unit plenty of that, they might actually be a dark horse for a strong result. And, we'll have to see what they do. But yeah, just look out for Aston Martin, because I wouldn't be surprised if they did get even a double points finish in Baku, because Lance Stroll was pretty good in the Grand Prix. We'll get into him in a moment. But also in Baku, we know Lance Stroll is a very, very good driver. I think Stroll has had a points finish at every single Grand Prix he's done in Baku. Of course, podium in 2017, 8th in 2018. And then in 2019, he finished in, I think, 9th place, I think it was, or 8th place, one of the two. So, Stroll very good there, and we'll have to see what he can do. And talking of Stroll, he was also great going so long on these tyres. Again, he did 55, 60 laps on the hard compound tyre. The hard compound tyre, without doubt, was the tyre to be on in the Grand Prix yesterday. And Stroll did such a wonderful overcut, probably the best overcut strategy I saw in the Grand Prix, because he ended up building a pit stop to Esteban Ocon when, before Ocon pitted for his pit stop, Ocon was still looking comfortable for a net 8th place, but Stroll pulled out the gap, came out ahead, and ended up finishing over half a minute ahead of Esteban Ocon. So, great speed by Lance Stroll. And again, for Aston Martin, very, very important Grand Prix. 14 points for the team. That is a crucial bounce for them now going into the rest of the season. And I do think now, like I've been saying with Aston Martin, that it would take probably until Monaco, Baku time for this team to start kicking on. I think you will now see Aston Martin start to kick on, because they have progressively been improving the car, been improving the results. So, yeah, I think you'll start to see Aston Martin now become more of a consistent team, say, more towards the front of the midfield. I don't think they will be at the absolute front of the midfield pack, but they're going to be more so closer to, say, McLaren and Ferrari, and they're definitely going to improve as the season goes on even further. Next up for AlphaTauri, Pierre Gasly, great result for him, a top 6 finish. Vital, I have to say, for the AlphaTauri team that they got that result. Because after the qualifying they really needed those points to keep them in that nicely in that battle for 5th in the Constructors. And yeah, Pierre Gasly drove very well, coped very well with the pressure behind of the 7-time world champion, and yet again put in another performance that showcases why he should be in a front-running car, which he's done so many times in the last year and a half. And yeah, going into the next Grand Prix in Baku, I'd have to say, I think Pierre Gasly is probably the favourite to be the highest placed midfield runner after, say, the 2 Red Bulls and the 2 Mercedes. Wouldn't be surprised at all if, say, there was a bit of a madness that happened between Mercedes and Red Bull in Baku, which we know is possible. I wouldn't be surprised if Gasly finished on the podium. I wouldn't at all. I would not at all. I think the McLarens and the Ferraris, again, will be right in there as well. But with the way he's driving and the way the Alpha Tauri is at a circuit layout like Baku, he should be very, very strong. Should be very, very strong. So we'll see what he can do. And hopefully Pierre Gasly will continue to lead this team forward. For Yuki Tsunoda, he finished in 16th place because of what he did in qualifying. The only disappointing thing was he lost position to Nicholas Latifi, but there was nothing he could do about that once he fell behind him. And yes, Tsunoda, I think Baku, a very important race for him, really needs to be getting, even if it's 10th place in just a single point, I think that would be enough for Alpha Tauri to be happy with him, because clearly right now he's miles away from Pierre Gasly and he's not even in the same stratosphere as Pierre Gasly, so he can't be thinking of trying to beat him. And yeah, he needs to be aiming to be 9th, 10th, around that area in Baku. Again, the Alpha Tauri in Baku is going to be quite a bit stronger than it's been in the last few races overall pace-wise. So yeah, Alpha Tauri have got to hope that Yuki Tsunoda can get it together in Baku, and I think he has raced in Baku before, which will help him because he did not, I believe, race ever before in Monaco. So yeah, I think Tsunoda should have a better race. I'd be very surprised if Tsunoda finished down in 15th and 16th again, put it that way. Next up, Alpine. I think, honestly, this man on screen, Esteban Ocon, did the absolute best with what he had. Alpine were not that quick this weekend. I think Fernando Alonso proved that a bit, honestly, in the qualifying session that, of course, preceded the race on Saturday. Yeah, a couple points for Ocon. Really benefited massively from track position and having that. He really did not have the pace to finish in the points. I mean, if we were at any other circuit than Monaco, he would have ended up being overtook by the two Alfa Romeos and probably Daniel Ricciardo as well. So he's got to thank his lucky stars and he's at Monaco, because he would not have finished in the points at all. So good result for Ocon. That's his 4th points finish in a row. Of course, 9th in Imola, 7th in Portugal, 9th in Spain, and then 9th here in Monaco. So he's doing pretty well at the moment, Esteban Ocon, doing the best with what he has. But I think coming up, Alpine are going to have a bit of a struggle. I think at the French Grand Prix, which is, of course, is their home Grand Prix, I think they will probably have a decent result there. But I think Alpine now, with the circuits coming up, which the majority are power circuits, I think they're going to now struggle, because in Bahrain, for example, the last time we were at a power track, Alpine, in the race especially, struggled quite a bit. For Alfa Romeo, good result for them, finally getting a point, even though they're still nowhere near the teams ahead of them in the Constructors' Championship. Giovinazzi, again, like Ocon, benefiting from his grid position. Raikkonen was clearly faster than Giovinazzi, I think, in the Grand Prix, especially towards the end. But yeah, Giovinazzi, I'm happy for the guy getting a points finish for the Alfa Romeo team. Happy for Alfa Romeo, but again, Alfa nowhere near anyone else, and I think really they're destined to finish in 8th place unless Williams get an amazingly high points scoring race from a Grand Prix that's, you know, a wet race or something like that. I don't see how Williams are going to get ahead of Alfa Romeo. So it really looks as though the last 3 positions in the Constructors are already nailed on. Alfa Romeo 8th, Williams 9th, and Haas in 10th. And talking of Williams, they finished in 14th and 15th place. Pretty decent result for Williams, considering the track really did not suit their car at all. I've got to say, Russell did pretty well to get into Q2, to be honest. Because, again, the Williams was not that good around the track. I will say, though, Nicholas Latifi, I thought was pretty good in Monaco. Only finished like a second behind Russell in the race, maybe even less than that. So yeah, Latifi very, very strong, and I think Latifi is showing some real progress. You remember back to Imola, of course, he was pretty strong there compared to his teammates. So Latifi's improving, and that is good to see. And going into Baku, where of course he's raced before, maybe we'll see Latifi up there a bit more with Russell. And I do expect the Williams car in Baku to actually be quite a bit stronger. And if we do get a chaotic race, I think Williams might actually nick a couple points because, again, Russell in Baku has had a good run in 2019 in the not 2019, 2018, sorry. In the F2 race, he won, I think, the feature race in F2 at Baku. And I think Latifi had a good result in there as well somewhere. So look out for Williams in Baku, especially if there are some retirements. And finally, Haas F1 are just absolute shit. They were actually a lap down on the Williamses and Yuki Tsunoda. So, yeah, they were arguably as bad as Williams were in 2019 around this track. Actually, you know what? No, they weren't. Williams in 2019, I remember in that race, Williams did not even finish last, I don't think. So no, Haas were even worse. Absolutely awful. They were, compared to the leaders, and I know in qualifying they were like 2.5, 3 seconds off, but in the race they were 4 or 5 seconds off the pace and were getting black and white flags constantly for going off the track. Just absolute utter shit, I have to say, from the Haas F1 team. But yeah, there you go. Those are the teams, and now we'll finally get into the Drivers' Championship. Max Verstappen leading, like I said, by 4 points from Lewis Hamilton second, Lando Norris third, now Valtteri Bottas fourth, Perez fifth, Leclerc sixth, and then Sainz in seventh, Ricciardo down to eighth, Gasly is up to ninth, with Ocon still in 10th, or now down to 10th, sorry, but still in the top 10. And then the top 10 in the Constructors' Championship. Red Bull are now a point ahead of Mercedes. We'll say McLaren and Ferrari actually not that far behind. Only, 60, 70 points behind after 5 races, which is pretty good considering how it's normally been in the Constructors compared to, where top place is. But yeah, Red Bull a point ahead of Mercedes in second, of course, Mercedes. McLaren third, only 2 points clear of Ferrari in fourth, and a massive gap back down to Aston Martin, AlphaTauri and Alpine, with Aston Martin in 5th, AlphaTauri 6th, and Alpine in 7th. Alfa Romeo 8th, Williams 9th, and Haas in 10th place. There you go. That is the Constructors' standings. And that, guys, wrong picture. Nope, wrong picture. There you go. That's the picture I want to finish on. And yeah, there you go. That is it for this stream. Might as well end it there because, again, it was a very boring race and there wasn't that many talking points from the Grand Prix. Hopefully you guys have had a good weekend tuning in to the streams and all. Of course, I was covering the Monaco Grand Prix weekend in full. Gotta say again, massive thank you to you guys for 10,000 subscribers, which we hit on Saturday. Like I said at the time, means so much to me, and I really, really hope we can keep building this channel as much as possible. And of course, got plenty more Grand Prix this season. I think, 17 or 18 more. So cannot wait for the rest of the season. And again, thank you guys so much. It does mean a lot to me. 10,000 subscribers. And again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this if you are new, because we will be doing a qualifying and race watch along for the remaining races of the season. And of course, next up, we are in Baku in 2 weeks' time. Bottom right of the screen, you can subscribe right there, or go to my homepage and do it there and hit the notifications bell. And also, just to let you guys know, my next video will be in 10 days' time, which will be the preview for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, which will be Thursday, the 3rd of June, I believe. I am still, at the moment, kind of working on a recorded video. No idea when it's going to come out, but I am working on recorded videos at the moment to try and bring you guys, sometime in the future to try and add to the, I guess, collection of videos on this channel. But yeah, the next stream, Thursday the 3rd of June, 7 p.m. UK time, of course. When it comes to recorded videos, I'll let you guys know when a recorded video will come, when it's done, because I can't know until, again, the video itself or stream or whatever it is actually done. As well, don't forget to smash the like button on this video. Don't forget to share this video and channel everywhere you can. And as well, don't forget to join the Discord server, link below in the description. The Discord has almost 500 people in the server, and also with the Discord, pretty active, especially for debate on F1 and motorsports. If you want to engage in that, then make sure to join our server and our growing community here on this part of the web. But guys, until my preview for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix weekend, it's been me for this Monaco Grand Prix, and it's been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.